Wii Party has always been a classic game to me, and after possibly hundreds of hours into this game and its counterpart on the Wii U, it still hasn't gotten old. Even with the existing coverage of this game, I feel like it still hasn't gotten its deserved spotlight, and that is why I've decided to make this video, so that viewers can play this game not only with an in-depth knowledge of its mechanics, but any strategies the game might have. This video will cover overviews and strategies for the main modes, the pair modes, and all minigames. There will be brief touches on extra modes, mainly on ones requiring more strategy. Multiplayer exclusive modes such as House Party will not be covered, however that may be covered in a future video. With that being said, where better to start than with the party games. Board Game Island is a game mode where your aim is to traverse the board, overcome its various challenges, reach the final challenge and beat it. Every round, everyone will compete in a 4-player minigame. Doing better results in a better dice roll. Normally the choice of minigame is random, however once a player gets towards the end, the game will let the person in last choose what minigame is to be played out of a selection of 3. If multiple people are in last, the game will randomly choose one of these players to select the minigame. First place gets a die from 1 to 6, second place gets a die from 1 to 3, third place gets a die from 1 to 2, and fourth place receives no bonus die and simply rolls a regular one on its own. You may think that this would reward a slight boost on average, however when you consider the fact that if you roll 2 of the same number with your dice, you get a bonus die with your double. The chance of a double is always 1 in 6. For example, if you come in third, your bronze die could be a 1, which is a half chance, and getting a 1 on a regular die is 1 in 6. Getting a 2 is also a half chance, and getting a 2 on your regular die is 1 in 6. Multiplying these probabilities together and adding them will result in a 1 in 6 chance. A 1 in 6 chance of an extra die means that it adds an average of 0.58 spaces moved per roll. This results in first place moving 7.58 spaces per roll on average, second place moving 6.08 spaces per roll on average, third place moves 5.58, and fourth place moves 3.5. Note how it is very punishing to come fourth, and add on top of this that when you come in any of the top 3 places, due to the doubles, at minimum you will move 3 spaces. So if you have a space that you don't want to land on, but it's only 1 or 2 in front of you, coming third or better means you will not hit it, provided that you aren't moved before your roll. If people tie in a minigame in Board Game Island, there will be a roll-off. You roll a die each, and your number decides your placement. You cannot get the same number as anyone else, even if they're in a different roll-off to you. For example, here, the CPU's got a 1 and a 2, therefore I already won the roll-off before even pressing A, as I'm guaranteed to get 3 to 6. If there is a very good space in front of you, trying to get 4th so that you have a better chance of landing on it doesn't usually work out. For example, the area with the blue stone statues has 2 of them 2 spaces apart. So if you're just before this part, getting 4th gives you a 1 in 3 chance, which isn't worth going for. There's only one scenario in this game mode where you shouldn't attempt to get first place, which I will get to later. The Volcano is a small board that players will be forced into when landing on a skull space or failing the Volcano Cliff Challenge. The Volcano features some plus spaces, a special space that when landed on makes the player instantly leave, and once the user reaches the end of the volcano, they will leave, return to the space they were left off previously, and will keep going. When you are in the volcano, you cannot be affected by tornadoes and UFOs or 1v1s, making this essentially like jail in Monopoly. Basically, being in the volcano can be an upside due to making you immune from extremely bad luck if you're very far ahead. If all other players are in the volcano, tornado and UFO spaces alongside 1v1 spaces will do nothing. If you leave the volcano by traversing it fully, you are also affected by special spaces that you may land on afterwards. To escape the volcano in one turn, you must either roll a 4 or a 9 or higher. As you go around the board, you will reach some challenges. Some are skippable, others are mandatory to progress for at least one person. However, almost all of them boil down to luck. The first one is the vine swing. Roll a die and you will jump that many spaces ahead. The second is the statue wall. Roll a die. If you get a 4 or higher, then you destroy the wall and progress. Only one person needs to destroy the wall for everyone to progress. If you roll less than 4, you will be forced to go back. Due to this being mandatory, it can keep a lot of people at the wall if you get unlucky, leading to the following. The third is the barrels or boxes. Pick whether you will jump on the barrels or boxes to progress. If you pick correctly, then you will keep going. If you don't, you fall into the stream and lose whatever roll you had before. Despite what people possibly think, this is entirely random and is a 1/2 chance. However, if you wish to engage in superstition, then pick the boxes. The fourth is the volcano cliff. Roll a die. If you roll under 3, you lose your roll and are forced into the volcano. Leaving the volcano will place you on the other side. If you roll a 3 or over, you progress. The fifth is the spiked ball statue. Roll a die. If you roll higher than the number displayed, then the statue is destroyed and everyone can progress. If not, you and everyone between the statue and the volcano cliff are all forced to go back to the start of the path. Every time someone fails the challenge, the number required goes down. It starts at 5 and will stop at a minimum of 2. The sixth is the final challenge. You must roll a 6 or higher. This is the only challenge that isn't completely luck-based. The first time you reach here, you will only have one die, meaning a 6th chance of instantly winning, which can happen. However, if you win a bonus die, and your turn starts at the final challenge, you get to use your bonus die in this challenge, making the odds much higher. Those odds being, first place has a 76% chance of winning, second place has a 57% chance of winning, third place has a 53% chance of winning, and fourth place has a 17% chance of winning. As you can probably gather, many of these challenges are luck-based. They exist to simply prevent someone steamrolling the game, as 3 of them are mandatory for someone to clear before they and everyone progresses. There are many special spaces throughout the board, most positively affecting you in some way or another. When you change position by a special space, if you land on another special space, it will usually not affect you. There is only one exception to this rule, that being the -4 spaces created by the volcano. The spaces are: plus spaces will launch you forward that many spaces, minus spaces will launch you backwards that many spaces, tornadoes will have you roll 2 dice. The first chooses the target, and the second chooses how far back they will move. From what I have seen, it generally affects human players more, though this isn't concrete. You can be moved back 4, 5 or 6 spaces. Tornadoes cannot affect whoever rolls the dice or anyone in the volcano. UFOs will swap whoever lands on the space with whoever the dice lands on, besides anyone in the volcano and anyone on the same space. This can be extremely punishing if you're very far ahead of other players and is the highest setback for frontrunners in these games. Sometimes I recommend not going too far ahead of computer players just in case a UFO occurs. 1v3 spaces will make the player compete in a 1 vs 3 minigame against the other players. If the one player wins, they move ahead 10 spaces. If they lose, nothing occurs. 1v1 spaces will allow the player to choose who you compete with. You cannot compete with players in the volcano. If you win, you will move ahead 7 spaces and the loser will move back 7 spaces. If you lose, nothing occurs. If every other player is in the volcano, then the 1v1 will not occur. Don't be afraid to try to battle someone better than you, as there is no punishment for losing. Computers will 1v1 the furthest ahead player they can battle. If 2 computers 1v1 each other, you can skip it. Skipping will change the odds, so that the furthest ahead player will generally win. Theoretically, if you want to make a game more even, you should not skip a 1 vs 1 with computers. Dinosaur spaces will have the user roll a die. If it lands on the pterodactyl, you'll move forward 10 spaces. However, if you land on the T-Rex, you'll be moved backwards either 4 or 9 spaces. When you're moved backwards, you'll be put before the previous challenge. This space is very risky, but an overall benefit. The blue statues are the best spaces to land on in the game. They will launch you forward by either 18 or 16 spaces depending on which you land on. This alone can decide games in its own right. Due to how beneficial this can be, you could try to change your placement in a minigame to attempt to land on these. However, there is a skull space in the middle of these 2 spaces, so it is very risky to try. The red statue is a negative counterpart to the blue statues. Landing on it will launch you backwards by 18 spaces. Avoid this space at all costs. Also note, the blue statues will launch you ahead of the red statue space, whilst the red statue puts you before the blue statue spaces, giving you a potential chance at recovery. Skull spaces will place the player in the volcano, requiring them to escape before progressing. The volcano space is the most impactful space when it comes to other players. When it is landed on, all other special spaces besides the spaces in the volcano will become a -4 space. These -4 spaces, when landed on, will make the user go back, but if they land on another -4 space, they will be forced to go back another 4 spaces. This could potentially make a player go back by 16 spaces in one turn. This effect will last for 3 turns, so if first place lands on the space, after 4th place has their go, the board will return to normal. So now that I've covered the game at large, where can we strategize besides the minigames? Well, looking at this game mode, it's almost entirely luck-based, especially compared to most other party games. So besides doing well in minigames, your best strategies come from the following. Choosing who to battle in 1 vs 1 games. If you really need a victory to get ahead, consider battling an easy opponent, especially if there's an easier CPU in the game. Winning a 1v1 is more beneficial when before the waterfall, as you can skip the challenge. Alternatively, you could try to sabotage someone, perhaps by trying to push them behind a challenge, or simply put, going for the furthest ahead person. There is no punishment for losing, so don't worry about choosing a hard opponent. Your second strategy is when the volcano is active. Due to it lasting 3 turns, if someone in a lower placement triggers the volcano, anyone higher than that placement next round will be affected. So if second triggers the volcano, the person who comes first next round will be affected. So that round, you could try to purposefully aim for a lower position. This is what I'd consider to be the only time I would try to lose a minigame in Board Game Island. Something else to consider, if you desperately want to have a chance of winning while an opponent is at the final challenge, try to sabotage them at the minigame. While you would probably come third, there is a massive difference between the top 3 and 4th when it comes to the final challenge. However, sometimes luck just isn't on your side. The best thing to do is to not let it get to you, because if you keep playing Board Game Island, you will end up with good games like these, and also games like these. Trot is what I'd consider to be the most complex game mode in this game. Your aim is to traverse the board, land on hotspot spaces, and purchase hotspot photos. Your aim is to have as many hotspots by the end of the game. If 2 players have the same amount of hotspots, you'll be ranked based on how many coins you had. At the start of the game, everyone is placed on the start space and given 10 coins each, to ensure that anyone can get a hotspot should they reach it. Every player starts with these cards, 2 1s, 2 2s, and a 3. The start space for your game is dependent on the region of the game. For example, since I own a European copy of the game, the start space for me is Germany. Each round, players will compete in a minigame. Doing better decides turn order, where it also gives players 10 coins for first, 5 for second, 3 for third, and 1 for fourth. Roll-offs also occur in this game for 4-player minigames. Starting round 8, the player in last chooses the minigame from a selection of 3. If there are multiple people in last, it randomly decides from those people. When it is your turn, you choose a card to use and travel the spaces required depending on the card, after which the space you land on will trigger an effect. If you're moving and you accidentally move the wrong way, moving back will give you your movement back. This means you cannot exploit it to land on spaces you shouldn't normally land on. At the start of the game, and each time all of the hotspots have been claimed, the game will generate 3 new hotspots, all in the same general location. For example, you can have 3 hotspots appear in America, Canada, and Mexico, or Canada, America, and Brazil. When new hotspots appear, they happen as soon as the last one is claimed. This can occur in the middle of a turn. When the game has gone past 10 rounds, it will enter overtime. The only changes during overtime is that the game will end when someone claims a hotspot, and those hotspots will actually earn a second bonus hotspot, allowing many players to have a chance to win. There are many different kinds of cards you can use for movement. All players will hold 5 cards maximum. Regular cards are valued from 1 to 3. At the start of your turn, these cards are shuffled face down. You won't know which you get until after you choose it. If your turn ends and you have less than 5 cards, you will be given a random regular card. From here on, every card is considered a special card. You can only get these by landing on certain spaces, during events, or buying them in the shop. Special cards will always be face up for you at the start of your turn. Train cards can either be 4, 5, or 6. They will take you the exact distance specified, and they cost 5 coins at shops. Taxi cards can let you move up to 3 spaces, however you can choose to stop beforehand, essentially letting you choose whether to move 1, 2, or 3 spaces. These are extremely valuable, especially near hotspots and airports. They cost 10 coins at shops. Helicopter cards will make you move 8 spaces. This can be used to travel small distances by looping around some areas, allowing it to be used like a guaranteed 1 in a pinch. Ensure to review the map in these cases. They cost 10 coins. Hot air balloon cards will make the player spin a wheel from 3 to 8. Whatever the wheel lands on will decide how far you move in that turn. Generally, wheels in Globetrot cannot be timed, so it's up to chance. Charter cards will allow you to travel to an airport of your choice free of charge. Since this costs 10 coins, it's effectively like spending 5 coins to travel to an airport and spending 5 coins on a plane, meaning it's more effective than strategizing trying to travel to an airport. Super Me cards can allow you to fly to the hotspot of your choice. This is the best card in the game by far, but also the most expensive, costing 20 coins. This usually ends up deciding games. Each space will trigger an effect when you decide to land upon it. Train card spaces will give you a random 4, 5 or 6 train card. The start space also functions like a train card space. Odd job spaces have you spin a wheel from 1 to 10. Whatever number it lands on will decide how many coins you receive. Surprise spaces will get 3 surprise cards and shuffle them. Whatever you pick will generally positively affect you and negatively affect others. The effects can range from taking coins from all of the players, distributing all coins equally between players, which is why you should avoid this space when you have a high coin count, swapping places with whoever the wheel lands on, swapping everyone's places, stealing a card from someone else and replacing theirs with a regular card, turning all of someone's cards into hot air balloon cards, having someone miss a turn, putting someone on a random space, and so on. 1v3 spaces will make the player compete in a 1v3 against the other players. If the one player wins, they earn 15 coins. If they lose, the 3 players earn 5 coins each. Airport spaces let the player pay 5 coins to go to another airport, or stay where they are for free. Airports are in Finland, West Coast USA, and Hong Kong. These are generally better than seaports as they're more centralized. Seaports let the player pay 5 coins to go to another seaport or stay where they are for free. Seaports are located in Panama, South Africa, and New Zealand. These are generally for players stuck at the ends of the map, unable to get to other places fast by other means. Shop spaces pick 3 random special cards for the player to buy. Players can buy whichever they wish that they can afford and can exit at any time. If you buy a card that would make you have more than 5 cards, you can choose which card you would like to get rid of. Hotspot spaces override whatever space it normally is. Hotspots cost 10 coins to buy. If you don't have enough money, nothing happens. If you do, you can purchase the hotspot for 10 coins and the space will return to whatever it normally is. There are many strategies you can use when playing Globetrot. First is coin management. It's almost always best to have as much money as possible, as you need it to buy hotspots, items from the shop, and using airports and seaports. However, a good idea is to always keep your coin count at 9 or above, especially as you get closer to hotspots. Because if you come in 4th at the next minigame, you will still earn 1 coin, and ensuring that you have enough money to buy a hotspot is always valuable. This is due to the possibility of someone else landing on an event space before you, and you could be moved over close to a hotspot. If you spend a lot of money at a shop and are put below 9 coins, you're essentially banking on the fact that you will do well in the next minigame. Keeping a lot of coins can ensure that no one can use an event space to steal cards from you. However, having a lot of coins is only valuable if your opponents have the same amount of hotspots as each other. It is almost always better to have as many special cards as possible, because you can have more possible spaces to go to, such as hotspots, airports, and other shops. Hoarding coins is only valuable in the last couple of turns, as you most likely won't end up using many of the cards, and you can keep your placement higher. For example, if you're in overtime and you have 3 hotspots while your opponents have 1, while getting the hotspot makes you win, also having a lot of coins will ensure you win, so perhaps try to land on odd job spaces or 1v3 spaces, as these all grant a lot of coins. You should try to head to shops when you have a lot of coins and not many useful special cards. The more variety you have in special cards, the more possible spaces you can land on your turns. I generally keep away from shops unless they have around 20 coins or more. That way I can afford either 2 train or hot air balloon cards, or 1 charter, taxi or helicopter card, and still have enough for a hotspot. When at a shop, purchase a train or helicopter card if it gets you to your destination. Otherwise, purchase a taxi card if you're close to the hotspot, because if you're 5 spaces away, for example, you can use a regular card, and if it's a 2 or 3, you'll be able to get to your hotspot next turn, guaranteed. Another strategy is buying cheap cards you may not need at shops to deliberately get rid of your regular cards. If you buy the whole shop, that would leave you with 2 regular cards, meaning you could discard all except a certain number. This way, your regular cards won't be random, as you're guaranteed to get the number you keep. When discarding cards, always get rid of your less common numbers, because consistency is much better than having a range of possibilities, as it allows you to strategize your next moves better. If you are good at 1v3 games, go for those spaces if you're in good need of coins. If you're skilled, 1v3 games favour the one person more often. When you have a Super Me card, consider what hotspot you go to. Generally, it is best to pick the hotspots that others are close to. If no one is nearby, choose the hotspot that's in the middle of both, giving you a chance to go for either. If you're in a bad position, and your opponents are generally richer than you, surprise spaces allow the game to be mixed up. While it is risky, it is better than nothing. However, don't count on it to win games. If a hotspot is close to being claimed, and you're not in the final round or overtime, consider sticking to a region you're in if it isn't close to the hotspots, as when the next region is announced, you might have a chance of the hotspots being closer to you, allowing you to possibly get 2 in the same region. Ensure, however, that you stick close to an airport or seaport if this does not happen, and if an opponent isn't guaranteed to get it, do not go for this. Try to still go for the hotspot, as having a slight chance of getting it is better than your opponents missing it, and it going into overtime while you're still on the other side of the globe. When it comes to minigames, track what players have how many coins. If a player has under 9 coins and they're near a hotspot, try to sabotage them, ensuring they cannot afford the hotspot. If you're in overtime, and multiple players are able to get to the hotspot next turn, do whatever it takes to stop them at the minigame, besides cheating. Perhaps consider allying with another player that's not near the hotspot, so you both still have a chance of winning. And lastly, ensure to review the map so you can plan out possible movements, what kind of cards you need to reach the hotspot. For example, if you're 9 away from the hotspot and you have a 5 train card, you could also then buy a 4 train card and reach there in 2 turns. Furthermore, just because a space might be 1 away, you can still reach there with a helicopter or a high roll on the hot air balloon by looping around a section. It still counts as your movement, making helicopters even more versatile.